All right. Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here today. You should be able to see my screen. My name is Hai. I'm co-founder of Affluence, the company behind Protomatrix. Today's webinar is on the advanced user guide for Protomatrix. So I'll be sharing a lot of things that are intended for folks who are familiar with Protomatrix already. So hopefully all of you here today and anyone who's listening to the call afterwards that you're already familiar with Protomatrix and you're looking for ways to accelerate your usage of Protomatrix to maximize your success. I do want to mention that this webinar is recorded, and so I'll be sharing the webinar with everybody afterwards. And then if you're interested in the more basic version of the webinar, we actually have all of those posted on our website as well. With that, let's go ahead and get started. My goals for today, I'll be sharing my tips and tricks on using Protomatrix, and I'll try to share some of the things that I do personally in order to, maybe give you some ideas on how you can leverage Protomatrix as well. And then second of all, how to manage 50 plus projects. Now, I imagine that, if you've used Protomatrix for a while, the number of projects that you have will grow very, very quickly. Me personally, in my work account, I have more than 300 projects and more than 10,000 tasks. And Protomatrix is one of those software that actually continues to work really, really well, despite the number of projects and number of tasks that you have. And so I think the way the Protomatrix is structured is conducive to such scenario. And then thirdly, how to help you integrate Protomatrix deep into your workflow. That's, I think, one of the most important things, which is Protomatrix should be there wherever it is that you need it to be in terms of creating tasks and in terms of finding what you need to work on. And then a couple of things to help you manage all these complexities that arises from just having so much data, right? How to archive projects, how to use advanced search and filters in order to, narrow down what it is you need to focus on every single day. And then lastly, the most generic thing I can possibly say, how to use Protomatrix to achieve everything you want to achieve. And my goal personally with Protomatrix as a software is that it should help you become more successful, become the most successful version of you. And part of that means putting your effort where you have the most impact. And then secondly, how to achieve those goals that you want to achieve, whether it's getting a promotion or whether it becomes become more effective at managing your time. And personally, I feel that one of the worst thing we can do with our time is to work on things that don't matter, right? And imagine how much time and effort all of you have gone through working on critical projects that you thought were important, but at the end of the day, they turned out not to be so. And so I want to provide you some thoughts and guidance on how to actually constantly be using Protomatrix to shift your focus to the most important task. The other thing I do want to mention is there is a chat section in the webinar here. So if you have any questions, send them there and I'd be happy to address them after the demo. One thing I want to remind everybody is why do you even prioritize? There's three reasons customers come to Protomatrix: to better keep track on the status of work across many areas of responsibilities, to create alignment across team members so that everyone knows what's important, to take back control of emails and meetings. And then aside, the corollary to that is what happens when you don't prioritize, which is you lose sight of what's important and you work on the wrong things, or you feel busy, but you're not meeting your goals. And then you're completely overwhelmed by emails and meetings. Now, I don't have to remind you, the people listening to this call and all you folks who are here today on the webinar, why it is important to prioritize, but it is so useful to always come back and think about our primary reason for using something like Party Matrix, because I think that, I've talked to so many customers where you get really excited initially when you use Party Matrix, but then after a while, you start getting maybe overwhelmed, or you realize there's just so many things to do, and then you start dropping off in terms of your usage of Party Matrix. But never forget the reason why you came to Party Matrix in the first place. And these are the reasons, right? And what happens is that I actually heard feedback from a customer where, they haven't used Party Matrix in a long time and they started forgetting about it. And then suddenly they remembered the reason why they started using Protomatrix in the first place, and then happened to watch one of these webinars and then suddenly got excited again and suddenly started feeling clarity again. And so sometimes, we are so overwhelmed. We're too busy to prioritize, for lack of better words. And it is the most ironic thing with all that. So I do want to remind you, just keep in the back of your mind whenever you sort of lose track of Party Matrix or you lose track of your key action items, just think about your initial reason why you came to the software. And of course, Party Matrix helps you at the individual level and then help you at the team level and help you at the organizational level. So, for some of you, you might already be using Party Matrix at the team or organizational level, but as part of your user guide, as part of your advancement through Party Matrix ecosystem, realize that if you're only using Party Matrix today for individual task management, that it has become so much more powerful when you start using it in a team environment and then equally in an organization. And of course, never forget the famous quote attributed to former President Eisenhower: what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. So whenever it is that you're prioritizing your task, whenever it is you're deciding what is it you want to work on today, always have this quote in the back of your mind. And so we're always thinking about, hey, what are the things that are truly important and urgent that I need to focus my time on? And then what else can I drop? Because if everything's important and urgent, then nothing is. Never forget that. And so hopefully I'm bringing this up because, I want you to think about the philosophy behind Party Matrix as much as the feature itself. At the end of the day, the software is there just to help you, but we're just a software. I mean, if you use it well, then I think you'll be successful. And if you don't use it well, it doesn't matter how good the software is, right? And in my opinion, too, you can achieve a lot of the things that you achieve with Party Matrix with any other software. We just happen to have the right structure and methodology to make you successful. And so I want to emphasize the philosophy just as much as the solution. A couple of tips as you scale up Party Matrix. And so I imagine, for those who are using Party Matrix for a long time, as you increase the number of projects, you start wondering, hey, when should I stop adding projects? Or what is a project versus what's not a project? And there's something that I've thought of for, even the past decade or so. There's three distinctive categories of projects. And so when you're adding a project, you can think of three types of project. The transient, those are the ones where you have a start date and an end date for the project, right? So it could be something you want to achieve this quarter or this month, right? So it could be a quarterly goals. It could be an initiative that has a start date and end date. And so that project you create all the tasks. Then you have a burn down diagram, you finish all of it, everything's done. You can complete the project, archive it, and then you don't have to worry about it again. Second type of project are persistent projects. And so persistent projects are one that stick around forever, for lack of a better word. So an example, at our company, we have a project for our Mac app, a project for our Windows app, project for our Teams app, Outlook app, web app, and so forth. Those projects last forever unless you're done with building that particular piece of software. For us, we're constantly adding action items, we're constantly adding features, requests, and so forth. And then things are getting marked off, but new things are getting added. And so that project becomes massive. We're talking about thousands of action items, but they're always there. And so at your organization or for your own work, they could be personal goals, right? You can have a project that's personal goals and they'll last forever because you're always adding new goals. But a different type of goal that might be transient would be something like your goals for 2024, because then you have a start date and an end date. And then the last type of project is informational. And you can consider these as resources or templates. So if you're not aware yet, one of the things you can do in Party Matrix is create templates that you can sort of start and reuse over and over again. So let me give you an example. Let's just say if you have an employee or customer onboarding process. Every time you onboard a customer, you have 10 things you have to do for them, right? So you create that list of action items you have to do for the customer in Party Matrix, using the quadrants to organize it in whatever specific ways that you do, and then you save it as a template. Now, this type of project itself is informational in the sense that it's there for you to have a record a history with or the resources necessary for you to be more efficient in the future. And then as you continue to use Protomatrix, make sure that you track the things that matter to you. I've talked to many customers where they use too many tools, honestly. You're using various to-do list tool, you're trying to use emails, you're trying to use task and Outlook, and then you're trying to write things down on paper. Guess what? The more places you have things, the less organized you'd be, and the more challenges you have around keeping track of all of it and have one central and be able to understand what you need to work on at any point in time. So the way I think about Protomatrix is Protomatrix should be the place where you track the most important work that you have. And then if you're truly invested in that, you can actually put pretty much everything else in Protomatrix, just organize it based on, the different types of project and so forth. And now you have one central place to understand everything. So keep that in mind, because it actually is detrimental to our productivity when you have, too many places where you're tracking all these things. The corollary to that is actually, that's a reason why we actually build so many extensions on Protomatrix. So if you're not aware, we have extension for Edge, extension for Chrome. It allows you to go and actually create tasks from any of those other places. And then lastly, incorporate Protomatrix into your mobile experience. And so Protomatrix has an app for iPhone, app for Android. You can use Protomatrix web app by just going to protomatrix.com on your mobile device, and you have all your tasks present. The reason I mentioned the mobile experience in general is this applies to me too personally, which is, I'm on my phone several hours a day, even when I don't want to. And I get those reports that says, this is how much time you spent per day on your phone. And sadly, we spend a lot of time on our phone. Sometimes I would get an email when I'm out and about, and I need to prioritize that email in Protomatrix. By actually incorporating Protomatrix into my mobile experience, I can actually forward any emails into Protomatrix and be able to prioritize my tasks as needed. So if you use Protomatrix, having it on multiple locations means you can access it everywhere. So Protomatrix, all these webinars, we post them on affluence.com/webinars. And so again, for those who are actually wanting a little bit more of an introduction, then definitely check out the introduction to Protomatrix. But then also I have a couple of other deep dives, such as the email management masterclass, templates, and advanced topics. And so likewise, this webinar will be posted online as well, just in case you need to review it. All right, with that, I'm going to jump into Protomatrix now, and I want to walk you through some of these things that we've talked about. As mentioned, if you have any questions whatsoever, send it through the chat. That's what I'm here for. I can answer those questions for you, especially when it comes to very, very unique use cases that you might have. And so this is your chance. Okay, so now you should see my Protomatrix. And so, of course, I always have Protomatrix web app open. For me personally, that's where I've been spending a lot of time within Protomatrix itself. And so the web app allows me to access it anywhere. Here I have it on Edge, I can have it on Chrome, etc. So a couple of notes, because I'm not going to walk through the basic interactions with Protomatrix. I'm going to jump around quite a bit and show you advanced things that you should be doing today, especially again if you have a bunch of Protomatrix action items already. One of the first things I want to highlight is actually star projects. So as you can tell on my left-hand side, this is my list of projects. And always there's a couple of projects that's up here, right? These are my star projects. The way you star a project is go to the project details, which is right here, and you click on that and it opens the project details. And then there's a little star icon here. When you star it, it goes to the top of the list. So as you have more and more projects, again, if you have 10 projects, you might be able to survive without starting the project. But if you have 50 projects, you want to start the projects that are active. So for me personally, I have 5 to 10 star projects at any point in time. These are the ones I care about. These are the ones that should be at the top of my list. Everything else is just there. I can access them as needed, but allows me to jump to what matters most, right? And so that's a whole goal of all of this, is that have an easy way to identify the most important projects, the most important tasks, et cetera, every single day. So make sure you use this new capability here where it shows at the top of the list. The second thing I want to talk to you about with respect to projects is user group. So as you use Protomatrix more, one of the things you're probably aware of is that you can actually invite various team members into your specific projects. And so this gives you very, very granular control on who's in what project. But as you use Protomatrix across your team and organization, one of the things you can do is actually click on this user group here, and you can build various types of user group. And let me give you an example here. For example, you have your engineering team. That's a user group, or your product team, or your sales team, or your marketing team. So then when you create a project, instead of actually manually allocating the users, you just select the team. So if you're in IT, you can actually build out these teams for your organization and then letting people invite the appropriate folks, right? And then what's nice about that too is when you have a new team member, you just add them to the team and then they automatically get access to all those other projects. And then vice versa. When someone leaves, you can remove them from the team and then they actually get removed from all those projects as well. So as you use Protomatrix more across your teams, make sure you check out the user group. One of the things that I think is very important when you use Protomatrix well is customizing your quadrants. So as you know, I hope you've tried some of this before, but every single quadrant in Protomatrix is customizable, and you can click on here and then you can, delete this text and add new text and so forth. But as you use Protomatrix more, you're going to find that, hey, some quadrants are always empty. And so therefore, you don't want to have those quadrants. Instead, you actually want to create a new type of quadrant name that is actually, reflect the way you think more or reflect the way your organization needs more. And so one of the things I tend to like to do, for example, is I tend to change delegate here to like resources, right? And so resources and files. And so that just allows me to go um, and change this quadrant right here to resource and a file, so then I can actually just go and upload resources or files relevant to this project instead of having a delegate quadrant. And then I typically always leave quadrant 4's inbox, and that's where I add my task at any point in time. Some of the other things that you may not be aware is that every single one of your projects actually has a calendar. And so I actually don't use this feature too much, but for some people, it's actually really, really useful. Let me give you an example. Let's just say if you have a project for a client that you consult for. And so now in Protomatrix, you might have, let's say, a dozen different projects, right? One for each of your clients. And within that, you have a lot of action items, you have a lot of due dates and so forth. Well, guess what? Every single one of those projects has a calendar. So you can actually click on Get Calendar link and share that calendar with your clients, your external clients. They can then add it to their calendar and they can see exactly the tasks you have open at any point in time. So it's a very useful way to share that information with external parties. Likewise, you can actually, subscribe to specific projects that are important to you within your own favorite calendar software. So this is an underused feature, but it works really well, again, especially if you work with external parties. I want to walk you through a couple of advanced options that's typically not used inside Matrix project details here. If you click on the top right, you're going to see a lot of different options. Now, in my opinion, you can get 80% of the value out of Matrix with 20% of the features. What that means is you probably don't need any of these. But sometimes to go from that 80% to 95% or 98%, these extra thing in Matrix makes it a standout compared to every other tool out there. Couple things. One, every project in Protomatrix has a link to the project. So what that means is it allows you to actually create like dashboard projects where you have a project that link to other projects. And so what you can do is you can copy this link to project. And when you do that, you can actually paste into Protomatrix and essentially jump around to all these other projects you have. You can choose how you get notified on changes for the project. Sometimes you actually want to mute a project because it changes often, and so you don't want to get notifications around it. Calendar link, we talked about that. You can actually embed a project inside a website or inside your SharePoint. So what's neat about this is you can actually get a code that you can actually paste. And you know how you've been to web pages where you have an embedded YouTube video? Well, you can embed a Protomatrix project inside one of your websites as well. So I've seen people use this where they just want to communicate hey, these are the some of the things I'm thinking about, right? And they want to organize it in real time. So then when you make the changes in Matrix, it updates this embedded view. Pretty useful if you want to put it in SharePoints. Let's just say if you create a project in Matrix called goals, your company goals or quarterly goals, then you want to embed it into your SharePoint so then anyone who visits that page can see all those goals inside, that whatever pages they have, and they don't need a Matrix license to access that. You probably have seen the inbox, and so I'll show you a little bit on the inbox as well, how I use inbox. But just so you know, every project and every quadrant in Matrix has an email address, which is really, really neat. Let me give you an example. For me personally, when I use this capability, I actually create auto forwarding rules. So the way it works is every email that I get from Microsoft, I would automatically forward it into my Microsoft project. And so that allows me to actually have information be organized really, really easily. You can share project in read-only mode. What that means is you can actually, again, send a link to somebody who's external, and they can actually see your Matrix in read-only mode, and they don't need a license for Matrix. Of course, you can duplicate projects. You can export the project as a CSV. You can import the project from CSV after you edit it. And then, of course, you can save the project as templates. That allows you to essentially never have to create the same task over and over again, and then, restoring deleted items and so forth. The other two options down at the very bottom here is the ability to archive projects as well as delete projects. So sometimes when you use Matrix for a long time, you may have a lot of projects. And what that means is that you may not want all of them around visible on the left-hand side. So in that case, you can actually choose archive project and they get hidden from view. And then later you can actually go and choose to see all your archive projects. Okay, those are advanced capabilities on a per project level. Now, let me walk you through a couple of things that I think is useful to help you take Matrix to the next level. So as you can see here on my left-hand side, when I go to projects, I have the ability to create project. And of course, you've seen the blank project and so forth. But if you are a longtime customer of Matrix, you may not leverage this already, which is the ability to create project with AI. One of the things I really like here is that we're leveraging AI to build out essentially features that might be useful to you for you to meet your goals. And so let's just say if one of your goals is to get a promotion this year, right? You literally go to create new project here, then you type, get a promotion. And then you click proceed here. And so when you do that, Matrix will use AI to generate a list of things that you should do in order to get that promotion. Now, the whole point is that it's not supposed to be perfect, but it gives you a fantastic starting point. So I've already generated that. And so let me show you how that looks like. So here I have the project getting a promotion. I generated using our AI. All of these tasks were made for me. I didn't have to create any of it. And one of the things you can see here is that it uses a different type of quadrant name, high impact long-term, low impact quick wins, low priorities. And so what that does is it creates a series of tasks, organize it into different buckets. And when you look at this, you can determine, hey, what are the things I should work on in order for me to meet this goal? One thing that I think is important with Matrix is helping you achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, right? And so we talked about that. And part of that means that it helps you meet your own personal goals at any point in time. For me personally, every year I have a series of goals. And then I also have my personal goals as well as my work goals. And therefore, using something like Matrix to track all my goals and coming up with ideas on what it is I want to do just makes it a lot more powerful as a way to ensure that I work on the right things. Now, there's a couple of tips I want to give you after you create one of these AI projects, which is to look at the task list and then set due dates and reminders. So for example, let's just say you look at this project and you see create professional development plan, right? And you click on notes, it tells you some notes around it. But if you just look at this, you're not going to get it done. So the way I would approach is you go down here and you say due in 1 month, and then you would say, remind me monthly. When you do something like this with your goals, it creates a recurring reminder for you to ensure that you actually end up working on it. And you know how it is with all of us, which is, we're constantly being bombarded by new things that's coming in, right? And so what that means is if we have something that's important, but we don't set ourselves reminders, we're going to forget. So in Matrix, by setting these recurring reminders, it keeps on popping back up into your home view, and it ensures that you will actually work on them. There are so many times I've missed something important, but because I set the recurring reminders, Matrix comes back and ping me, and I realize, wait a minute, I forgot to do that, and then I actually get to it. And so I always set these remind me monthly as part of my routine for anything that's important. So if you're not setting a reminder daily for all your critical tasks, make sure you do that today. That's the one way that I can handle thousands of items in Matrix because, you know, 99% of the tasks I don't have to worry about. Maybe I'll create them, maybe they have a due date and so forth, but if they pass, it's not a big deal. But all the important ones are there for me on a constant, I'm reminded of them on a constant basis. The other thing you can do too is actually every single item, you have the ability to star the item as well. When you star items, you actually can generate a special report onto starred items. It's just like the star projects, the starred items is pops to the top of your list. And so for me, I always have a couple of starred items in my star projects. And so these are the ones that's active for me. One thing that actually apparently wasn't so obvious is that right below that, you have the ability to add icons. And so, for some customers, they never realized that this capability was there. But if you click on that option, you actually have a ability to select some icons, just a way to visualize the tasks that you have. And one of the things I've seen a lot of success with are these colors, right? And so I like to, color code some of these tasks. For example, you could say that red red icons here are tasks that are behind schedule, or you could say red are the critical ones, and then greens are the one that's aren't as critical or is on task, etc. Whatever it is, it's up to you and your own approach and how you communicate to your team. But that's the point of these colors. It makes it so visual. So, for example, let's just say if I choose a color here, now I can actually see the color within the quadrants themselves. And so it's very visual, very easy for me to focus or see what are the things that requires my attention. So that's how you set icons. The other thing you'll notice is actually down here in the tag, you can see that you have a couple of tags that's created for this item, including start and so forth. So what that means is that a start task simply just means it has the tag starred, right? And so what that also means is that if you want to star another task, instead of actually clicking on the star here, you can just type star hashtag starred. Oops. So I can actually just type hashtag star here. And so that allows me to actually create, let's see here. Oh, something causes my app to actually flip to another page. So anyways, that's if you can actually type in the comment itself to actually star the task. Okay, I want to show you a couple of things around email management because I think that if you actually perfect email management with Matrix, you'll find that you can use Matrix for pretty much everything else. So if you're not aware already, if you go to inbox here, you have your secret inbox address. So let me show you here. So for example, I have my secret inbox address here. I'm going to copy email address. I right click and copy email address. Now, when I go to my Outlook, you're aware that we have an Outlook integration, right? So what that means is I can actually open Matrix here, I can prioritize email, etc. Well, guess what? When I'm on my phone and I'm on, Apple Mail, I don't have this nice integration. So if I get an email on my phone, in order to prioritize in Matrix, what I do is actually I forward it into Matrix. So that inbox address that I captured, what I would do is I would create a contact in Apple Mail. So I call it inbox Matrix. So then when I have an email that I need to prioritize, what I'll do is I'll click forward and then I would type inbox Matrix. But since I don't have that here, I'm going to paste that address that I got, right? And so you see how I can forward an email into ProMatrix. It has the subject here and the body here, but here's some tricks, which is in the top part here of the email, you can actually type commands. So for example, earlier, you saw how I said due, and then a date. I could say due tomorrow, remind me daily, and then hashtag starred. So now what happens is I have an email that's come to me from any email systems, right? I can forward into Promatrix and type the command directly here, and I click send. So what that does is it actually forwards it to Promatrix, applies each of these commands as different lines, and ensure that I actually will get to this email. There's so many times where this has saved me a bunch because, flagging an email in Apple Mail works, but that doesn't actually help me when it's in Gmail. And then second of all, flagging works well if I have a few flag emails, but when I have 200 flag emails, it goes away real fast. And then, I can't set due dates, I can't set recurring reminders and so forth. With mail, you can actually get a one-time reminder, but then again, you're going to forget about that. And then of course I can't start. And so that just creates another place where I'm tracking emails, but it doesn't bring it all together into one central place where I see all of my tasks. This is a really neat trick. If you don't do this already, and make sure you add the inbox address, and then of course, now that you can do these commands. It's actually really useful. We actually have a web page that explains the different commands that you have in Promatrix. So if you don't know this, you can actually search for command Promatrix, and then it should bring you to this web page here. But essentially, these are a series of commands that you can actually add to your task. And that could be through emails, again, through the forwarded emails, or within the items themselves. And so this is really useful, and it's very, very powerful if you use it correctly. So one of the things I've done too is I would say, move to quadrant 1 or move to quadrant 2, etc. And those commands will actually work. So if I go back to my Matrix here, you see how that email got sent to me, and actually it just went through, it just got processed. It set the due dates for me, it set reminders for me, and it got starred. So how cool is that? And I didn't have to open Matrix to do that. And I can actually forward a bunch of emails. Sometimes some people actually write an email to themselves. And so you could write an email to your Matrix inbox, and it comes here. And then when you do that, what happens next is you can actually hover over this and then move it to the appropriate project, right? So, you can move it to another project. You can choose the quadrant it goes in directly from there. Now, of course, I told you earlier that every project and every quadrant in Matrix has its own email address. So technically, you could do this forwarding for all of that. It just creates additional complexity. So now you have to have multiple contacts for each of those projects. But if you have just a few projects, and you're always forwarding emails to those projects, it's very, very easy. Just create a different contact. So for example, let's just say if you have a particular client that is super, super important, right? You can go to, let me show you how that works right here. You go to here, you can say, you can create a new project. You can say super important client right here, and go ahead and click add. Once you've done that, at the top right here, you can go and choose to get secret email address. You can say that anytime you forward an email to here, it would assign to a certain person, or it would put in appropriate quadrants. And then you copy address, and then you save as a contact. So whenever that client sends you an email, you can forward it into this particular project, or you can set a rule in Outlook to automatically forward that. And so it makes it so easy for you to keep all this information organized, because I think emails, it's just one of those tough challenges for us to deal with, because no matter how much we can get the team to be on Matrix, external people will always be emailing you, and so this is how you tie it all together. The other thing I want to talk to you real quick about are actually the other types of projects. So earlier I mentioned to you how you have a get promotion, but the other thing too is you can actually create onboarding templates for your customer, as we talked about earlier. Again, this was generated from my AI goal. So I said, I want to build a better customer onboarding template, and Matrix came up with a bunch of ideas for me to create that better template. So I recommend using our AI system wherever appropriate, and what it'll do is it'll really kickstart you along the path, right? And so from here, you can remove any task that's not relevant, that's not useful to you. But for those that are useful, you can star them. You can assign it to people directly from here. Okay, So a couple of things I want to mention. So again, if you use Protomatrix for a long time, you'll find that, your goal with Protomatrix is to have it be accessible everywhere. So one of the things you can do is actually install Protomatrix across all our different extensions. So Protomatrix is probably already the most integrated solution in the Microsoft Teams Outlook ecosystem, but I don't know if you're aware, but we have Protomatrix for Edge, for example. So if you're on Windows and you use Microsoft Edge, which actually I really like the browser. If you go and search for Protomatrix for Edge, you can actually go here and you can see it. We can actually install this extension right up here. And so what that allows me to do is I can convert any web page I'm on into a Protomatrix task, the same way that I did it with my forwarded email. Similarly, we have Protomatrix for Chrome that allows you to add it for your Chrome, and then Protomatrix for Gmail. And by the way, I talked a lot about a Microsoft ecosystem and Office and so forth, but that same way that I use the inbox is how I would manage from your email. So what that means, I'm sorry, from your Gmail email. So what that means is if you go to Gmail, if you only use Gmail in your organization, you can still click compose and you paste in the address, and then you forward an email or you write a new email, etc., type in the command and press send, and it adds it to your Protomatrix. But as you can see, Protomatrix also has a Gmail extension. And one of the cool things about our Gmail extension is it lets you actually insert Protomatrix tasks into your email itself too. So all you have to do is install Protomatrix for Gmail extension here, and it shows up here, and then you authorize it within your own organization. And so that allows you to have Protomatrix be even more integrated into your existing workflow. So let's talk about how you manage so many projects at any point in time. So for example, in my demo account here, I have like a few dozen projects. And as I mentioned to you, in my real work account, I have several hundred projects. So Protomatrix has something called the search view. So if you use our desktop app a long time ago, we used to have something called the master view. Well, the search view is actually even more powerful than the master view. What the search view does is it actually shows you all your tasks across all of your Protomatrix, right? So if you have a lot of projects, one of the last things you want to do is click through each project and find out what it is that you need to do. So by going to the search view, it shows everything here. Then you can actually click on this filter option and you have all sorts of ways to find out what it is that you need at any point in time. For example, you can click on overdue, right? That allows you to see all your overdue tasks across your Protomatrix, or star. And again, that is why starring task is so important, because when you star a task, it shows up in its own special list inside Protomatrix across all of your projects. So if you have 50 projects, you have 5, 10 tasks that are starred. By clicking on starred, it allows you to hone in and see those tasks real quick. My items, essentially, these are tasks that are assigned to you, right? So the search view actually will show you all items across everything, but then you can go and say, only show the things that are assigned to me, or you can actually use this filtering system to find tasks that you follow, etc. And then also, of course, based on the dimensions of due dates. But there's a couple of things here that I think is really useful. One, you can actually filter down to specific quadrants. So I've had customer ask, hey, I want to find out what are all the important and urgent tasks that I have. Well, that's easy. You would say the tasks that are assigned to me, right? And then afterwards, you can say the tasks that are assigned to me in quadrant 1. And then afterwards, you can say only in star projects. And so you can see how in one view, I can actually narrow down here on you can see how right here, what I'm showing you is actually the list of items I have. Despite having hundreds of items inside Protomatrix, with just a few filter option, I've actually narrowed down and I can hone in and jump to exactly what it is that I need. And let's just say this filter is something that's very important for me. I can actually click on this custom filter and I can type a name here and I can click save. So what that allows me to do is actually save this filter as one button. So I can click on it and it automatically applies this filter for me next time. Very, very useful if you're a manager and you want to build these custom reports to see what your coworkers or your direct reports are working on. right? So, you can say for person A, person B, person C, person D, you can do that and then save all of that. And then, you have your one-on-one meeting, you just click on that filter and then it shows you only the things that's relevant. This is so powerful when it comes to managing literally thousands or tens of thousands of items. For me, the search capability in Matrix is one of its most useful capability as you expand your usage. The other thing you can do from the search view too is you can actually select these items. So this is, again, not so obvious, but if you click on this top view right here, it's called a multiple selection pops up. If I do that, I can actually select multiple items. So imagine again, I want to go and find all the items I want to delete, right? I can do the search filter. I go to this multi-selection view. I can select all and then click on this again, and then I can go and delete the item or print the item or export a CSV. So imagine if a coworker of you, a coworker of yours is no longer with the company and you need to assign all of those tasks to another person. Well, guess what? You can go to the filter, search, find all the tasks assigned to that person, click on this multiple selector, select all, change owner. And immediately every single task across every single one of your projects that were previously assigned to that person is now assigned to a new person, or mark them as completed, or mark them as read, or change icon, change dates, etc. So powerful, so useful, and it's an underused capability because sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out that's how you can do it, but now you know. Couple of other things. So you've probably seen inside Matrix, for example, going back to get a promotion here, you've probably seen these other views that we have. So for example, the quadrant view is always front and center for us, but you can change the list view. You can change the calendar view. I like the list view to find overdue items. I like the calendar view to see the things that's coming up. And then the Gantt chart view just to see how things tie together across larger time scale. So one of the things you can do with the Gantt chart is zoom out, so then you can actually see across 10 months at a time, as opposed to a calendar, which is good for at most 1 month at a time. And then the other thing is actually in the reports view too, you can actually run a report for every single project that you have, right? And so this is a per project basis. But if you look on the left-hand side, you actually have these other views, and these are called global views. So you can click on calendar, and now you have a calendar across all of your projects. You can go to Gantt chart, and actually this is a new feature we're going to have, which is the ability for you to see Gantt chart across all of your projects. So again, these are global views. These are per project view. So as you use Matrix more, sometimes, people interact with the system in different ways. Some people prefer the list view, right? Some people prefer the quadrant view. But what's nice about Matrix is that you can actually have all of those still sync together and it still makes sense. And it's just different ways of displaying the data. So make sure you use this. And, if you have some team members who are not familiar with the 4-quadrant methodology, you can explain to them that they can go to the list view. And, for some people, it just makes a lot more sense. Okay, so that's how you manage a lot of projects, and that's how you manage a lot of tasks. One of the things you can do too with your project is you can, up here, you can actually search for your specific project. But earlier you saw how I tag a task. It turns out you can also tag projects. So if you go down here within this group of projects, you can actually click on the tag here and be able to add a tag for your specific quadrants. And what's useful about that is, again, when you go to the filter system, you can actually just filter for specific types of projects. Okay. A couple of other things I'll mention, and then I'm going to wrap things up. I've seen customers use existing systems already. And so one of the things Matrix allows you to do is actually pull in tasks from other systems as specific projects. So this is called task connectors. The way task connector works is that you can go to this web page here, and then you can connect to your other tools. For example, Jira, Outlook, Microsoft Planner, Azure DevOps, etc. And so what this does is actually pulls in those various tasks into Priority Matrix as a one-way sync. So as you update Planner or Outlook calendar to-dos, it pulls into Priority Matrix. Now, we don't do two-way integrations because the goal with Matrix at the end of the day is to create one central place for you to prioritize all your tasks. So you should find that this is, a one way for you to actually pull in all those items. And then afterwards, you should be spending a lot more time within Matrix too. But if you go to task connectors here, that's one way for you to integrate all of that together. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump back to my presentation here and wrap things up. So, as mentioned, again, this is intended to be an advanced user guide for Matrix. So I hope that what I'm sharing with, or what I share with you today, is actually useful from the perspective of helping you leverage Matrix to the next level, right? You've seen all the basic features, how to create tasks and all that, so you don't need to see that again. But as you use Matrix more, and again, at the individual level, and then to the team level, and then to the organizational level, I hope that you see Matrix as the one central place to track all your priorities. And if that's not happening, then something's wrong. And reach out to us if you need help. But the goal with all of these systems is that you want to have one central place where everyone can be at and see, okay, this is what I need to work on today, right? And or you can see, hey, what is my manager's top priorities, or what are my direct reports priorities? And so having that information inside Matrix will create a lot of alignment within your team. And so everyone on the team should be able to understand and be aligned on key tasks. I love having a project called Team Priorities. And so if you don't do this already, make sure you do that. Create a project called Team Priorities, invite all your direct reports into what central place. Everyone goes there, and at any point in time, it could be 5 p.m. your time, it could be 8 a.m. your time, or it could be, middle of the night, and they can go there and they should be able to see what everyone's priorities are. And that's the point of Matrix. You don't have to have a meeting. It's just to be aligned, right? You can be aligned asynchronously. Repetitive procedures are templatized. You've seen the template system. The template system saves a lot of effort, a lot of work. Use our AI system to build some of the preliminary templates, and then from those templates, save them, and you can ensure that you can reuse them over and over again, so you don't have to recreate work. Important emails are prioritized. Again, if you don't use our email prioritization right now, you have to. I think email management is probably the number one reason why people come to Matrix. And so now you know how you can forward the email into your inbox and then set all those commands. By the way, one of the commands you can have inside there is assign to a team member. So what that means is when I, forward the email into a specific quadrant, I can assign it to a team member, or I can type assign to and then their email. And so I've done this. In fact, I've done this today. I get an email from a customer, and so I just, for some reason, didn't use the Outlook extension to convert to a task. So I just forwarded into my inbox, assigned to the person, set the due date and all that, and they were able to follow up with me afterwards and ensure that we answer the customer email appropriately. And then again, if you're using Matrix so far, just on a personal level, which is totally okay, I think success at the personal level is most important. But as you achieve success at the personal level, bring Matrix to your team and organization. I've seen customers where, for some reason, they have tremendous success at the personal level, but then they don't bring it to the team, and then they don't bring it to the organization. And then guess what? Somebody else will go and implement some other systems, some other software for task management at the team level, and it's an inferior solution. But because it got implemented at the team level, suddenly all the other people are using that, and you're using it, but you're like, this doesn't work well. And now you have data in multiple places, and it just ends up being detrimental for everybody. So if you use Matrix and it works well for you, be proactive and bring it to your team and organization, and then it ensures that everybody becomes successful with it. And our team, at Affluence and at Matrix, we want to provide you resources for you to be successful. And actually, for those who don't use English as a primary language, or you have global team, we actually have training materials in every single major languages. You just have to reach out to us, and we offer a lot of additional help at the business level to ensure that the team members within your organization, are successful regardless of whatever language barrier that you have. So with that, I conclude this presentation. I'm going to check to see if there's any questions. And also, you can always reach out to me at hi@affluence.com or our support at affluence.com in order to get any of your needs addressed. Thank you so much for listening. Someone mentioned that they had some bad audio. No problem. What we'll do is we'll send you a copy of this webinar so you can actually view it. Uh, Great. Thanks for the other person for confirming that, not everyone's missing all the audio. Thanks for the mention. Of course, this is a lot of information, and so hopefully you will, you can review this webinar afterwards if you want to dive into any specific details. Again, if it's overwhelming, you don't have to use these capabilities. The goal of this advanced webinar is to help you go from 80% to 95%. These are the things I use personally on a routine basis, and I cannot survive without Protomatrix because I get a couple hundred emails per day. I go through, several dozen tasks at least every single day. And so for me, I can't think of a more powerful way to be on top of my key tasks. So um, don't worry about using all of these features. Use the one that works best for you. And that's all there is to it. And then, in a year, I think you'll find that once you use all of these features, you'll find that you'll achieve a lot of success. And then, as I mentioned, some team members prefer this in specific languages and so forth. We actually have a system for translating all of this into the respective languages. And so we have so many cross-language teams. Thank you all. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions. Appreciate your time. Thank you.